Hello, and welcome to another episode of My 2 Cent. My name is Paul Emerson, and I'll be giving you my 2 cent. Because it's trending, okay, this is going to drive me crazy. Let me fix this. That's better. Okay, so because it's trending, right, we're going to do a video. I didn't want to, but it's trending. We're going to do a video on the Black Panther movie. Primarily, we're going to touch on the controversy of it, because I already know some of the controversy. I went to go see it because I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I've known about the Black Panther characters since before they made the Blade movie. Spoilers, obviously. I'm going to give you my 2 cent on the Black Panther movie. The Black Panther movie was good. It's a good movie. The issue of the controversy of ethnicity in this movie is not necessary. It's not. Like, there's no reason for us to have a philosophical debate over whether or not the Black Panther movie has anything to do with the history or legacy of racial oppression and discrimination in America. For one, Caucasians keep telling people that look like myself that we need to get over racism and all that stuff because it doesn't exist. But then a large group of Caucasians, not 100%, but a large group of Caucasians will complain that a movie was put together depicting an all-African cast, which is kind of ridiculous, right? Because we've already established the term whitewashing in Hollywood, and we were told that it's not really a big deal. But then you make the Black Panther movie, and now you see the latter. Now you see all this opposition to this movie because the cast is all one minority, but no one cares when the cast is all Caucasians. Let me address this topic really quick. When it comes to whitewashing a movie, characters should embody themselves. So if you're gonna make a character, here's the perfect example I can give you. This is the perfect example I can give you. Karate Kid, right? So in Karate Kid, you had this Caucasian kid that goes to China to learn martial arts, right? The movie's whitewashed because the Caucasian kid stayed a Caucasian kid throughout the whole movie. He never developed as a character within the context of Karate Kid, when karate is synonymous with the Chinese, Asiatic, Japanese, Mongolian cultures, right? So that's why we would call it whitewashing. Now you take another story, you take another character, same title, same movie. You take the remake of Karate Kid with the African American child. He embodied the culture of the Karate Kid more. He was more humble and respectful of the practices and the rituals of the actual narrative. He grew into the character and learned and developed within the culture, not in opposition to the culture, but within the culture. And so that's where we get this whole thing about whitewashing, and this is really the foundation of why the Black Panther is a controversial story. People wonder why there's so much controversy in Black Panther. Let me explain it to you. It has nothing to do with an all-black cast. It has everything to do with the two fundamental proofs that Caucasians in America specifically use to justify the atrocities of their ancestors. And those two proofs are that slavery was the best thing that ever happened to Africans, because look at where they are now. The quality of life that the average African American has is better than the quality of life that the average African has. So they use that as a justification to say that these are the reasons why what happened in the past, Africans should just get over it because it's not that big of a deal. The second fundamental proof is Caucasians believe that their ability to enslave Africans is the result of the natural progression of evolutionary theory of the survival of the fittest. That they became technologically advanced and superior as a group of people to the point where they made themselves the alpha species in the human condition. Those are the two fundamental proofs that are driving the controversy behind the Black Panther movie, because there's a few things in the movie that chips away at this ego that the Caucasians have developed. One, the Wakandans in the movie are absolute African. The technology the Wakandans use, as the FBI agent says, I've never seen this type of technology at this level before. He's emphasizing that the technology that he's observing is not European. He's acknowledging that this is far superior to any European technology that exists that I'm aware of, and I'm in intelligence. What this does is it directly contradicts the idea that the African American is better off for being colonized and enslaved and brought to America, because the quality of life in Wakanda was superior to the quality of life in America based on all of the imagery of the movie itself. The contents of the movie said that Wakandans live better than the African American. Wakandans live better than the African. Wakandans live better than the European. Wakandans live better than the Asians. There was not a single Asian in the whole movie, but no one's gonna even remotely try to deal with the controversy of that, because we don't care. We're only focused on our narrow perspective of what we think is ethnically right and ethnically wrong, so we can maintain our ethnical homeostasis about how we feel about the legacy of being an American in this country. My ancestors were both slaves and slave owners, because I am a human being. I believe that all human culture is my culture, all of it. So I don't care that my actual ancestors were slaves, because I also understand that the Europeans on this country are also my ancestors. I understand that the Asians on this country are also my ancestors. I have a God-given right, and I don't even believe in God. I have a God-given right to be whatever I choose to be on this planet, based on what I choose, not what's forced on me, but what I choose. So in this movie, these ideologies start to conflict, because Stan Lee is a brilliant storyteller. He wants to make money by selling stories that inspire curiosity and imagination. We've moved from philosophical. We moved from a culture of philosophy into a culture of entertainment, and so our entertainment is the only source of our philosophy. But the fundamental foundational philosophy that Stan Lee has put in these stories is the reason why it hurts your ego, because that's the point. That's the point. He deliberately took what didn't exist in our culture during his time and said, these are the things that need to happen to make this character all powerful. There's one universal understanding that you need to realize about the Black Panther movie, and that is that Black Panther is a Marvel character. And like all Marvel characters, he must be the most powerfulest character, the most powerfulest character in the actual universe. No one is superior to him in his universe. If you've seen the movie, there was a perfect scene of Black Panther talking to his father, right? He took the ceremonial thing, and they cross over and they're talking, right? Now, this is the brilliance of Stan Lee as a storyteller. It's the brilliance of Stan Lee as a storyteller. This would have been a perfect. Okay, so let me set the scenes up. So during the ritual, Black Panther takes the herb and makes him more powerful. He transcends into the afterlife and speaks to the ancestors. He has a conversation with his deceased father. He comes back to the mortal realm. So, major spoiler, he's defeated by the character Killmonger, and Killmonger takes the ceremonial herb and becomes the Black Panther. So he also goes to the afterlife and is able to speak to his father. His father died in America as a Wakandan as a Wakandan brother. He was the brother of the king. He died in America. Long story, go see the movie. When he spoke to his father basically, they had a conversation that if you're an African American male, you get. Because most African American males lose their fathers just like he did. They're outside playing basketball, they come home, and they find out their father's dead. The average African American, about 70% of the average African American male and female in this country has lost their father to some degree in one way or another. Now, the movie took this elegant scene and brought it to made it a very powerful image by allowing him one last opportunity to speak to his own father. And that's the part of the movie that you won't understand if you're not an African, because Thor did it. Then Thor speak to Odin. Then his father died, and then Thor walked over and was like, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" Like, it's the same. It's the same movie. It's the same narrative. The only thing that changed was the skin complexion and texture of the hair and the shape of the nose and the lips of the actual main character. All of the stuff that happens in the story is the same stuff. Anyway, the brilliance of Marvel is that this would have been a perfect opportunity when Killmonger was in the divine plane speaking to his father. This would have been a perfect opportunity for a cameo from none other than Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange could have showed up and been like, "Hey, look, check this out. This is what you're trying to do. This is what should happen." The reason why they didn't do that, because I'm fully aware they probably knew they should have did that. The reason why they didn't do that because they wanted the characters, the eternal conflict of the Black Panther character's story to stay Wakandan. They didn't want it to be anything outside. They wanted it to be exclusively to them. Just like the Avengers Civil War. Remember the Avengers Civil War? How all of the characters were conflicting within each other. There was no external enemies or bad guys or nothing. It was all inside that content. Because when they're telling a story, they're giving us the same stories repackaged over and over again, and that's what makes them so amazing and good. But you guys want to ruin it by not enjoying the story, but instead wanting to continuously vibrate on these controversies that have no place in a movie theater when the character is as old as Black Panther. Don't you know that Black Panther is about 80 years old? The dude is, no, I'm sorry, he's like 70. But the character is so old that he deserves to be on the big screen. Blade was on the big screen. Hancock's on the big screen. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern. The Tick has even been, well, maybe not on the big screen, but the Tick as a character has been popularized on many occasions. The Black character's story and the Wakandan story is what comic book writers aspire to. When you become a comic book writer, you aspire to inspire the youth. And you can aspire to inspire the youth to some degree by creating characters like Goku and Superman. But sometimes it's nice to have a superhero that looks like your father, your biological dad, or your biological mom, so that you can bestow the belief that your mother and father is a superhero onto your real parents. It's really hard for someone like me to look at Goku and be like, "Yeah, my dad's Goku." You know, it's easy for me to believe that I'm Goku, but it's really hard for me to inspire to imagine that level of greatness in my own father by just looking at the imagery. Because we're talking about like children. Like, this movie was not meant for 40, 50, 60, and 70-year-olds. It's nice if you went and enjoyed it. But comic books are written for teens and preteens. So the controversy that's been had by adults is the reason why adults should not watch children movies. If our adults are not able to go to the movie theater and watch a movie and not politicize it or make it controversial for our kids, then we should stay out of the theater. I went and enjoyed it. I went there and I was like, "This is sweet." Like, I hope that Doctor Strange will show up. Dang, he's not gonna show up because that's gonna be controversial. You know, like, all of the little things that happened in the movie, it happened exactly the way I knew it would, because Stanley's a brilliant storyteller. He's a brilliant storyteller, just like Bill Nye is a brilliant scientist. When you have brilliant people doing brilliant things, you get brilliance out of it. The problem in this country, and the reason why I started my 2 cents, is that a vast majority of the population that are brilliant happen to have skin like myself, like mine. And they're not allowed to maximize their brilliance. And unfortunately, we as a global community lose because of that. Because most of you probably don't even realize that the Killmonger character was written by an African American. The original story arc, comic book arcs, were actually written by an African American. You know what happened? He didn't like the fact that Stan Lee didn't want to share it. So he quit. But you know what's funny? Stan Lee didn't share with none of his writers. He didn't care what ethnicity they were. It didn't matter who you was. He kept full ownership over all of his character stories. And the reason why he did that was so that we could go see the masterpiece that was Black Panther in theaters that just came out last week. You know, so I'm at the point now where I'm going to start ranting and raving and rambling, and I'm not going to do that. Go watch the movie, calm down, it's just a movie, enjoy the movie the same way you would have enjoyed Superman. Superman fought Zod at the end of the movie of Man of Steel. I think it was Man of Steel. Superman and Zod fought. Zod was like, I will never stop. And Superman's like, you have to stop or I'm going to have to break your neck. And Zod was like, no, I will never stop. I'm going to bring back the Kryptonians. I'm going to destroy this planet and bring back my people. And Superman said, no, you can't do that because I love all people on Earth. And then Superman broke his neck. It's the same exact narrative as you know, Black Panther and Killmonger. It's a little paraphrased, but it's basically the same thing, you know. There's a little bit deeper stuff going on. You can still go see it if you haven't seen it. You'll still enjoy it. But that's the point. The point is that all the things that Superman did is no different than any of the things that Black Panther has done. Everything that Iron Man has done is no different than any of the things that Black Panther has done. The only difference when it comes to the Black Panther character in the Marvel Extended Universe is the perception that a king that is an African also happens to be the most technologically advanced and most economically stable person in the world with the richest nation. And that actually hurts your European ego because you have been raised to believe that no one is superior to you. Iron Man can fly. Black Panther is still superior, and you don't like that. And if you don't like that, then you really need to reflect on yourself and realize this is just a story. Because if you can't even handle the story, how are you supposed to handle the reality of the history of the struggles of American culture, right? And as always, my name is Paul Emerson, and I have just given you my 2 cents.